Thank you all for joining our manufacturers webinar and listening session where we're going to talk about the implementation of Senate Bill 25-002, which does a lot of things for the industry, but we're going to focus primarily on the regional design criteria for factory-built structures in the state of Colorado. If you have questions, please raise your hand or put them in the chat and we will answer them as we can. We've got a lot to cover today, so we will get started and I will share the slide deck. Can everybody see those slides okay?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, good. Well, I'm Sam Albrecht. I am the director of the Office of Regulatory Oversight. I work with Donnie Featherman, who's the program manager for building codes and standards. Heather Hopwood is also on the line with us today. She's the project manager for the implementation of 002. What we're going to do, spend a little bit of time on is going over Senate Bill 25-002, which was signed into law last year, and we've been working hard to get ready to implement it effective July 1st. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what this regional design criteria is and how it's going to be set up as we move forward. And then we'll go into discussion and questions. We do have a point where we want to hear from you, where if you have recommendations on where to draw some of the limits for the design criteria, we can get that input and take it forward to the Technical Advisory Committee, and I'll talk about that group in just a second. These regional design criteria will be effective for FB, factory-built residential structures, and FB&R, factory-built non-residential structures, and it will also include tiny homes. So like I said, there's a lot. These are the major bullets of Senate Bill 25-002. It clarifies the responsible parties across different state agencies. It clarifies that counties and municipalities may not exclude factory-built structures or impose more restrictive requirements. And in addition, for the installers, it does allow them to be not only individuals, which we've always done before, but it also allows them to register as a business and have more than one installer employed by a single business entity. It also allows for third parties to perform final plan reviews. That's a big one for the manufacturers here. So effective July 1st, third-party agencies can be the final approval for plan reviews. And we will still have the capacity to do plan reviews if you want to send direct instead of going to a third party. And the other piece of this is it does allow us to do audits and puts a lot more emphasis on what we should be auditing as we go through, right? So that's a key point. It also directs the implementation of local government's inspection requirements and registration and responsibility and accountability requirements for all parties, including general contractors. So the two things that I want to say there are that since the third-party agencies are going to be the final approval, we are going to register third-party agencies at the state. And then on that next to the last bullet, we're talking about general contractors. We're talking about a registration scheme that will allow us to register general contractors that are doing site prep work and OC completion on site for the units going in. If they're not already registered with the local jurisdiction, if the local jurisdiction has a registration or licensing requirement for contractors, that will remain. but in areas of the state that don't have a contractor licensing, we will register those contractors. All contractors, whether they're registered at the state level or at the local government level, will be required to complete a factory built structure orientation course. And we're working out the details of that. Now, why are we here today? This is the biggie of the whole reason behind this legislation, and that is to direct the development of regional building codes. And as you know, the state has about 320 different jurisdictions. Every local jurisdiction has their own wind load, snow load, and authority to prove that. What we're trying to do is group those into common regions that allow the manufacturers to develop a single plan set or a few multiple plan sets if they want to build into different regions for an approved plan, right? Before we tied plan approval to a specific address, that's going away. We will still require when that unit is built and delivered that a plan set is delivered to the state. But again, the third party, if you have a unit that you want to use in multiple jurisdictions and it meets the regions that we have are proposing, then it can be used in a number of different locations, and you don't have to get it reapproved for each specific location. You've got it approved already by your third party agency or by us, and then you're ready to go. Now, the design criteria for each region must include at a minimum wind shear, snow load, wildfire risk, thermal zone, radon mitigation, or automatic fire sprinkler system. So the devil's in the details, and we've been working a lot on this, and we're going to show you a mock-up of what we think these draft regions are going to look like going forward. And then we're going to ask you some questions about where to draw the lines. We have, let me just jump to the next slide. So this is the process for rulemaking. Once the statutes are signed by the governor and if they become law, and then we take those and we look at our rule set and see what needs to change. This is a massive rewrite of the administrative rules. And so the way that our laws work is that the Technical Advisory Committee, the TAC, recommends administrative rule changes to the State Housing Board. And the State Housing Board is an 8-member board. They host the public rulemaking hearing. They review the evidence presented at the rulemaking hearing, and then they will vote to adopt or modify or not adopt the rules. Okay. Now, the Technical Advisory Committee is made up of 19 experts. They represent a lot of different sectors, and I'll show a slide here in just a second on the different sectors they represent. And the Division of Housing, that's me and Donnie and Heather, sitting back here working like ducks, looking calm and cool on the exterior and paddling like crazy underneath. That's what we do. So we've been working with the TAC very closely, proposing a lot of different options and collecting the information and the data. Now, with that, I will say that the Technical Advisory Committee I cannot thank them enough. And we've got a couple of the members of the TAC, I know at least one that are here on the call today. They do a fantastic job. It used to be 15 members. They bumped it up to 19 in this latest statute to just increase the number of interested parties that can be involved in this process. There are now 4 local building department officials in climate zones 4, 5, 6, and 7, one in each of those. We have a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber. We have 3 manufacturers, one representing IBC, one representing IRC 1 and 2 family dwellings, and one representing FE&R, factory or industrial, right? We have a representative from the tiny home community. We have an energy conservation representative, a factory built developer, a climate resiliency rep, a registered seller, a registered installer, emergency services or management, architecture. We have an architect on the TAC, and we have a structural engineer, and we have a representative for organized labor. So that's your technical advisory committee. These are the folks that are actually recommending the final administrative rule changes to the State Housing Board. Now, let's talk about engagement. We have been having one-on-one meetings with the TAC members, and we have been talking to a lot of different organizations in the development of these design criteria regions, right? We are talking to local government organizations, county, such as CCICC. We're very involved with them. We've been reaching out to CCI, Colorado Counties Incorporated, CML, Colorado Municipal League. We've also been talking to the Colorado Energy Board and the other state agencies such as DORA, the Colorado Fire Prevention and Control, and the Colorado Energy Office, all on getting input and on what our administrative rule changes are going to look like. If you are not signed up for our newsletter, please make sure you sign up. We try to publish the meeting information on these and give updates on these on our progress in these newsletters. And so that's a great resource for you to go forward. Now we're going to jump into the draft concept. I'm going to turn this over to Donnie in just a second, but I do want to also mention that we have Shums Coda, and I see at least one of them online here today. And we have a contract with them to help us take a look at what the design criteria should be, right? So we partner with them. They sent out a survey and to every jurisdiction in the state and to look at what snow load and wind load practices. We are also that survey also covered climate zone usage, frost depth, winter design temps, wildfire hardening, radon and sprinkler requirements. And then that data fed into this table that we're getting ready to share with you. Could not have a better partner in this. They have been fantastic to work with. They haven't said no to any request that we've given them yet. But I'm sure we have pushed them to the limit on some of our exploration. Now, with all this said, there is a discussion going on to move from the 21 to the 24 code set, and in order to take into account the 24 design criteria changes that are in that code set. We're almost 100% decided to do that with recommendations from the TAC. And so one of the questions in here does discuss on what that impact of the 24 code set would, how that would impact the manufacturers. All right, so here's the table. Donnie, you want to jump in? Now, I will say that the statute was very clear that we had to accommodate every single design criteria approved by the locals in the state. So there is a home for every manufacturer in this table. And Donnie, I'll just let you explain what the layout of this table is.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Donnie Featherman, Program Manager for the Building Codes and Standards section. So I monitor anything that comes into the state of Colorado that's factory built. And so what I'm going to do today is just go over this table and then some of the the footnotes that go along with it, and then some of the data that was collected is part of the, I guess, the creation of this table. But just real quick, just to clarify, as Sam was saying, we're not creating regional codes. This is more of a regional design criteria table. We are going to have one code, and depending on what we do adopt, as Sam was saying, it looks like we're going to adopt the 2024 building codes, but that might change. It just depends on the type of feedback we get from the industry, and then also feedback from TAC members, and then we'll see what we're going to do, at least with the code section. So the idea is to either adopt the 2024 building codes or possibly stay on the 2021 building codes. But this table itself, it's only considering the design criteria out of the codes. So you'll see that it covers snow, wind, thermal, wildfire, fire suppression, radon, and ADU fire separation. And as if you remember from a couple of slides prior, those are the only ones, or the only design criteria that was mentioned in the bill that we needed to consider as part of this development. And then we are trying to think of other design criteria that might need to be added to this to account for site-specific information that's related to design criteria, so that we can add it to the table, or maybe add some amendments into the rules that would account for those. If you have any questions, try to save them for after we go through this. But if you want to do like a placeholder on your question, please use the chat box. You can type in your question there, and we can go over those after. All right. Okay, so just to go over this table here, again, it does cover the different regions, regions 1 through 5. You'll see that there's snow loads that are in increments of 20. You have wind regions that go from 120 to 150 in increments of 10 miles an hour. And then we also have the thermal, wildfire, fire suppression, radon, and ADU fire separation. So the concept of this table is it doesn't have to be used across the board. You don't have to say, like, I'm going to do a region 1 structure and do 40-pound snow and 120-mile-an-hour wind. You can do a 40-pound snow and 130-mile-an-hour wind, or a region 2 60-pound snow load and a region 1 wind category, which is going to be the 120-mile-an-hour VOLT. So these are kind of like a pick and choose, but also you'll see that this wind and snow table doesn't exactly cover all of the different wind and snow loads that are in the state of Colorado. So if you wanted to, let's just say, for instance, you're building for a specific site and they had a 50-pound snow load and 125-mile-an-hour wind, well, it's not on this table. And this table it's to be used like a prescriptive table, right? And so if it doesn't have your specific wind design and your snow design, or your snow design, you can use region 5, which is an alternate construction. So it's kind of like that catch-all. So you can say, hey, I don't want to design to a 60-pound snow load. I just want to go to the 50. You can do a region 5 snow, and let's just say you wanted to do 120-mile-an-hour winds. Then you can do a region 1 wind, and that should cover you on your wind and snow loads. Now, the other things you have to consider when you're designing for these regional design structures is the thermal envelope. We do have climate zone 7 here as of now. We're still doing some more deeper discussions on this because there are concerns that over insulating may cause some issues for some areas that have a lower requirement for the climate zone. So, for instance, we do have climate zones 4 through 7 in the state of Colorado. If we designed a structure to a climate zone 7 thermal zone, and then this was to go into a climate zone 4 area, there might be some issues there, especially if the ventilation and the ventilation for that structure is not compliant, that you might get some extra moisture buildup in the walls, and there's not enough breathability in that structure to get that moisture out, which may cause mold. So we're looking into alternatives. We do have a footnote there to try to accommodate that. But we still got to look at thermal zone 5 or climate zone 5 and climate zone 6 to see what alternatives we have there. So that may change, but as of right now, just based on the Colorado map, there's only 4 jurisdictions in the state of Colorado that have a climate zone 4. Everything else is going to be a climate zone 5 through 7. But a majority of Colorado is a climate zone 5. And then also wildfire mitigation. So we have a new requirement. I forget what bill it was, but the Colorado Fire or the Wildfire Resiliency Code Board put together a wildfire map that indicates where wildfire mitigation is needed, and they broke it down into different classifications. You have a low hazard, a moderate hazard, and a high hazard. So there's a class 1 and a class 2. Class 1 is the low hazard, class 2 is moderate and high hazard wildfire mitigation requirements. And so based on the mapping, there are some areas in the state of Colorado that have a 0 classification, so there is no wildfire mitigation requirements. A lot of those locations are in areas where there's a lot of farming land. But if you look at the map itself, a lot of the high hazard, moderate hazard areas have a border of low hazard. So based on discussions that we had, we recommended that we have a minimum of class 1 wildfire mitigation, which by the requirements that are in the WRC, it's just a class A shingle, and then also metal gutters and the protection of openings for ventilation in that structure. Moderate and high hazard starts getting into the structure hardening, where you have certain materials that can be used on the exterior, and then also some additional preventive actions to help with that wildfire mitigation. We are not doing any site mitigation, so all of the what is it called, Sam? The open space.
Defensible space.
Defensible space. The defensible space that will be regulated by the local jurisdiction. We are discussing what we need to do in the areas of the state where there is no local building department, but I think the idea is the same. We'll talk more with the Colorado Fire Prevention and Control on how we can help assist in that. But as of right now, we are not doing any defensible space requirements. It's only specific to the structure. So if you're a class 1 or a class 2, you'll have to comply with one of those. But at a minimum, what we're recommending is a class 1, just because the requirements for a class 1 are not, they're not, I guess, significant changes other than the protection of the openings and the type of roofing material that you're going to use on the structure. We're assuming that most manufacturers are already providing a metal gutter system as part of their packages with their structures. And then also the price difference per bundle is just a few dollars difference. The installation methods for the shingle should be the same. I don't think there's any special wildfire mitigation installation instructions that are provided with shingles. They are all provided the same type of installation for those shingles. So a class 1 shouldn't be that large of a cost increase. Maybe a few $100s, maybe $1,000, depending on how big that structure is. Especially if you're doing the price comparison by bundle and how much each bundle covers for the specific product. And then for the fire suppression, this one's a little bit tough one to do. We're still doing conversations on this one because every local jurisdiction is different. There are quite a few local jurisdictions that do require fire suppression for their local amendments, but they're not consistent. Some may require a 13D only. Some may require or may allow you to do both a 13D or a 2904 for residential structures. We haven't found any that, at least based on the surveys and the data that we have in the past, there's nothing that shows the jurisdiction that only requires or only allows a 2904 system. A good portion of Colorado, if they have adopted the fire suppression system requirements, they do allow a 13D across the board. So what we're going to recommend is that if a local does require a fire suppression system, then we're going to go with the 13D design. In this way, that when you build a regional structure, the chances of that unit having to be re-reviewed because you did a 2904 system and then it went to a jurisdiction that not exempted, but excluded that design criteria from their ordinances, that it would require a whole new plan review just for that fire suppression system. It was done to a 13D. Every jurisdiction that we've looked at so far allows a 13D, so there wouldn't have to be any resubmittal of that product, and that structure should still be allowed to go into that jurisdiction. And then we can get into that a little bit further a little later here. And then also radon mitigation. The state of Colorado as a whole is in the zone that has concern for radon. And the issue is we don't know what jurisdiction requires it based on the survey. I think there's few that do require it, but the concern is still there for radon. So what we've put on here is that you'll see in the footnotes that there is going to be a requirement for preparation for radon mitigation. It's not necessarily saying that you have to provide radon mitigation. It's just that you need to show details or provide a pathway for radon mitigation if it's going through the structure, either through a rim joist or through the structure itself, maybe up a wall where you're going to provide piping for that ventilation system to the exterior. You just need to show that on the plan review or show details that show how it can penetrate your structure to the exterior. And then up the side of that structure, or however it's going to be ventilated out that building. And then the last one here, you'll see that there's a light blue area there for minimum. It says requirements for IRC structures only. We don't foresee any type of ADUs for commercial buildings. Chances are they'll fall under a R category, occupancy category. And it wouldn't be considered an ADU. But on the residential side of things, an accessory dwelling unit to a existing dwelling that's on the property, this will most likely apply to that. The problem with ADUs is each local jurisdiction looks at ADUs differently. Some may require the ADUs to be separated from one another, as you would with a duplex. And some locals may require you, or not require you, but they might consider this to be a structure on the same lot and just part of the existing building. And so they may not require any fire separation between the structures. So to mitigate that, we do have a minimum requirement here with also, you'll see a footnote there, and we'll get into that on the next section here. But yes, the table itself, again, on the left side of that thick black line there, these are going to be the wind and snow load requirements. You'll see that on the wind side of things, it's going to be category 2, exposure C minimum. Anything that is beyond that or less restrictive of that, you will have to submit a alternate construction design. So if I wanted to do a category 3 building for wind, I will have to do a region 5 for wind, but maybe you can still do a region 1, 2, 3, or 4 for the wind or the snow loads for that structure. And you'll see that it also has the roof snow load and then also the approximate ground snow load for that region. Okay, you want to go to the next slide, Sam?
Yeah, Donnie, just let me add one point here, and that is that, we took a look at the data collected and the data that we knew to draw the lines between, these different regions for wind and snow. Now's the time for the manufacturers to really take a hard look at this and say, you know what? 80 pound in snow load for zone or region 3, there's a break point between 75 and 80 point in my design cost, right? And production cost. Could you change 80 to 75? And then, so that's the kind of input that we want to hear from the manufacturers, because we just don't want to take a look at the data on where the different locals have design criteria now. We want to know how it affects your cost of production, right? The other thing I want to say is two more things. One is there is a home for everybody in this and alternate construction. And if we had a lot of discussion on multifamily projects, large projects where you've got a lot of wind exposure, those type of things. So there's a home for everybody, and we are telling this to the local building department officials too. There's a home for everybody in this table, we believe. And so the other thing is, going back to my first point on where we draw these lines, we really think this may work for everybody. If it doesn't work for you, then we want to hear that also. But let's go through the next few slides, and Donnie can talk about some of the details and footnotes on these tables.
Yeah. Hey, Sam, can you stay right there on that one?
Yep.
I forgot to mention. So this table itself, it's for both commercial and residential.
Yep.
So this table could be used for FB&R, so factory built non-residential structures, and then also residential structures, which include the single families and the IRC and the multifamily projects under the multifamily building program, or the IECC residential sections of the IECC. So just wanted to mention that as well. We did contemplate doing two different tables, but at the end of the day, if we're just doing risk category 2 and exposure C, which are the most common types of structures in the state of Colorado, and this is a prescriptive table, as long as you follow those prescriptive requirements, regions 1 through 4, you should be compliant with those specific regions. And then also, if you decided to do something that was different, just because the site requirements for that specific structure exceeded the table, then you would just use the region 5 category. So, and that would apply to both commercial and residential. Okay. And then just for clarification again on the thermal requirement, that's just the thermal envelope requirements. It's not saying that you have to comply with climate zone 7 for everything. We know that it doesn't make sense for some of the things that are in climate zone 7 to be applied for climate zone 5 or even climate zone 4, especially like the ERV and HRV requirements that are required in climate zone 7. But you do need to consider that if this does go to a climate zone 7 area, that you will need to have the ERV and HRV or meet that requirement for that specific location. But any other location, climate zone 4 through 6, actually, if in the 24, I think climate zone 6 now includes the ERV and HRV requirement. So, but in climate zone 4 and 5, you would not have to provide that unless you're doing that as part of a additional energy efficiency package requirement. Okay.
So there's a lot of good questions, Donnie, coming up in the chat, but I want to let you get through your footnote table first, because that may answer some of them. And Tracy has her hand up, but yeah, Tracy, I believe this is going to be applicable to tiny homes also. If I remember right in statute, we'll have to double check. It's all factory built structures, except for HUD code homes. HUD code homes are exempted from this, right?
Yeah, so this should apply to all.
Yep. And then there's a lot of questions about a map. Well, that's how we first started, was just to be honest with you guys. We tried to look at a map and said, hey, this works. Now, the issue we ran into with a map that calls these out, like you would find in an ICC or IRC or IBC code set, is that every local jurisdiction adopts their own design criteria. They may have used a map at one point, or they may have said, hey, this, we had a building fall and we're going to up our snow load or up our wind load. There's no rhyme or reason. Well, let me back up. Where you would expect that a generic map could be utilized. Sometimes the regional building departments have just continued what they have used in the past. So what you end up is, if you think about a 3D map, you end up with a map with regions and some islands popping up with higher requirements around there. So there's still going to be a responsibility on the manufacturer to take a look at what that local design criteria is, and then pick the use off the table to do that. So that's going to be one of the things that we can't get around. Now, once we adopt this, and we asked the regional building departments if when they were thinking about changing their criteria, it is our hope that we can go back with them and say, hey, we've identified you as one of these higher islands. Would you be okay with a lower set of design criteria? But that's going to affect not only their factory built structures, but that also their site built structures. So they're going to have to run that through their building department in order to possibly change things down. So that's one consideration. And with that, Donnie, I think we probably need to go through the footnotes on the table.
Yeah. Just real quick, we have the AI companion on. You want to turn that off? Because I think there'll be a accessibility thing provided at the end of the slide when we post this on the website.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see here. Okay. So, all right. So here are the footnotes for the table itself. So you'll see on the table there is every region had a footnote A from region 2 through region 5, and this is just a footnote that was carried over from the table that we currently have in the administrative rules. So when a snow load is above 65 pounds per square foot, the minimum uniformly distributed live load for exterior balconies, decks, and fire escapes shall be as required for roof snow load. So this requirement is for structures that are provided with the these accessory structures from the manufacturer. So we do have some manufacturers that provide models where the entire floor system is built, but the usable space for the structure, the living space, is recessed, which allows them to build a porch cover or some sort of accessory structure that has a balcony or deck at the front of it, or even at the rear of it. But this is what that footnote is for. And then also for footnote B, this is just clarification that the wind table will be the risk category 2 exposure C. And so if you're designing anything that is going to be risk category 3 or 4, or exposures other than exposure C, or in tornado regions indicated in the ASCE 7-22 written areas, then you must use the ASCE hazard tool or equivalent software for specific wind speeds. Now, there's not at least in historical data that we have for plans that were submitted to us, there's not a lot of risk category 3 and 4 structures. We are looking into possibly seeing if we can do some conversions from risk category 2 to risk category 3 and 4. But based on what we have, it's not that simple of a conversion. So this is just an alternate way to still be compliant for that specific location. And then from my understanding, the reason why it's not that easy of a conversion is because it uses historical averages for a specific location. So each location might have a different average, which can change the values depending on where it's going in Colorado. So the ASCE data tool is going to be the most accurate tool that we have to figure out what those structures will be for that specific location. And then also Colorado is or has tornado regions, and in the 2024 building codes, IBC and IRC, they do now reference ASCE 7-22. And ASC 7-22 has adopted the tornado provisions as one of the requirements that need to be considered when designing the structure. So, and that I guess the good thing is that those provisions only apply to risk category 3 and risk category 4 structures. And so that's important that you use that ASC 7-22 and then click those categories for the wind and the exposure, the correct exposure, and then also the tornado selection that's on that tool. And then footnote C, this is going to be specific to the thermal envelope requirement. What we did put in here is that if you are going to build specifically for climate zone 4, you do have the ability to build to climate zone 4 thermal envelope requirements without having to comply with the thermal zone 7 or climate zone 7 thermal envelope requirements, just to help mitigate that concern that we had about making the structures, I guess, too thick of insulation for those lower climate zone areas, specifically climate zone 4. Again, we're still doing more discussions on this. That table may change. We might have more climate zones in there. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to minimize the amount of variability in designs to make it easier for a manufacturer to submit one plan, maybe 2 plans that can be used in a majority of Colorado. All right. And then footnote D, this is going to be the wildfire mitigation requirements. So this may be exempted if the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code map or local amended map approved by the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Board classifies location where the structure will be installed with no hazard. So at a minimum, we require a low hazard for the structure. This is so that when you build the structure and you submit that one plan that's been approved, it can go anywhere in the state of Colorado that is at least not at least, if it's the requirement for that location is a low hazard, or if there's a no hazard area, that structure will be approved to go into that location. So again, the reason why we have it the way it is because even though there are portions of Colorado that have no hazard, those are going to be areas of Colorado where there are very few houses. Just the majority of the land that's there is for farmland. And so the structure itself might be within a low hazard, or it could be outside of the low hazard area, but there's pieces of the property that are in the low hazard. So we're still trying to figure that out as well. How we would enforce this, because let's just say you have a 2-acre lot and your structure is on a portion of the property, or the property itself has a portion of it within a low hazard area, but the home is in a section of the map that has no hazard. How do we enforce that? Or there's you'll see on the wildfire resiliency map that there are some areas in Colorado where you might have all 3 types of categories in one area. So,
and Donnie, that's a good point. The Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code map does not recognize lot lines in its development. It's a Colorado Forest Service map where they use hexagonal mapping of the entire state, and we spent quite a bit of time in early TAC meetings taking a look at that map. There are subdivisions that have 3 different zones in them, and we're trying to rectify that on a 2-acre lot. If that lot was split with no hazard or low hazard, we would go with low hazard for that entire lot. You can't build on the back half of the lot with a no hazard is the way we're going to move forward. And we may also do that with subdivisions or where there may be a natural barrier like a street splitting that But now's the time for the manufacturers to tell us as far as the cost of production, would you rather bump it up to the next level, or would you prefer it to be lot specific within there, as long as it's compliant with the map. So keep that in mind, please. Okay, Donnie.
Yeah, and then also the map itself, there is there are jurisdictions that have put amendments in with the Wildfire Resiliency Board to amend their entire jurisdiction or portions of their jurisdiction to meet certain requirements for the wildfire resiliency. We know of one jurisdiction right now, like Larimer County, I believe it is
Yep.
the jurisdiction that they had a mixture of high hazard and low hazard. And what they did is they amended their local ordinances to be high hazard for the class 2 across the board for any structure going in Larimer County. So what we're doing is we're working with the Colorado or the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Board to have those specific amendments posted somewhere that's easily accessible to manufacturers or any applicant that is looking for requirements, and to include us to verify whether or not the structure is going to be categorized as a low hazard or moderate high hazard requirement. So we are considering those as well. I think they have until March to get that finalized.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah. So any amendments that have been submitted, I believe they're being reviewed. And then March timeframe, there should be amendments posted on their website. Somewhere we'll get more clarification for that in the future. And then also, I think their plans to update the map is going to be possibly every 3 years. So any amendments are going to be posted on the website, I believe. And then once they update the map, if they update the map, it should accommodate any changes that were made on the future map. Okay. Next slide. All right. So fire suppression. So again, with the different local jurisdictions enforcing different requirements, whether or not they're going to have fire suppression or not, it's very difficult. As Sam was saying, we have over 320 plus, over 320 jurisdictions that have their own ordinances for design criteria. Some may require fire suppression, some may not, but we're not going to require fire suppression for all structures. We're only going to require fire suppression if the locals require fire suppression. If they do require fire suppression, the idea that we're going to propose is that it's a 13D system, because based on the information that we got, every jurisdiction that answered the questions on the survey that Streams Coda sent out, they all allow a 13D, and only some allow both 13D and the 2904 system. So if we just went with one that we know that the locals will allow, and make it easier to submit one design instead of having to submit multiple designs. Okay. And then I am looking more into what the design criteria may be broken down into for fire suppression. So as you know, the fire suppression systems for residential structures can be a 2904 or 13D, but even those can be broken down even further. Whether or not it's going to be a standalone system, or if it's going to be integrated as part of the water that's coming from the utility. Also, with 13D, you have a dry system or a wet system. So I'm looking into any other design criteria that might impact the design itself, and then possibly seeing if we can come up with a checklist that may be utilized by the manufacturers when designing the structures, to try to see if there's anything that the locals may or may not allow for that design, even if it was a 13D system that's specific to the design criteria, not the code, but the design criteria. So the design criteria would be anything that dictates the the design of the structure. So I guess an example would be if it's a 13D and a 2904 is design criteria, right? It's the design of the system. Anything that is within those standards or that section of the IRC is the code that tells you how to design that structure. But the 2904 system and the 13D system is design criteria. Within a 13D, a dry system and a wet system is the design criteria. And then everything that is within the code that tells you how to design that dry system or that wet system is the code, but the design criteria itself is wet or dry, right? So I'm looking a little bit further into that and seeing what we can come up with and trying to see if we can make it easier for applicants to submit that design for approval. Okay. Footnote F is going to be talking about the radon mitigation. So again, all you're doing is providing details on how that system will penetrate through the structure to the exterior. So whether or not it goes through the structure, through a wall, or if it goes outside the rim joist or other area of the structure, all you're doing is providing details on how that needs to penetrate that assembly. And that's all that's needed. So if the locals do require the radon requirements, that there is a method of how they can penetrate that structure, or if you provided a vent pipe through that unit, that we know where that vent pipe's at, and then as long as it meets with the I think it's appendix, I can't remember, K, I think, for radon mitigation, for the materials and the sizing of that piping for that system. And then also, I think there was a footnote also. Yeah, footnote G. So there are local jurisdictions in the state of Colorado that actually require radon mitigation for IBC structures. And so for those specific jurisdictions, again, you're not providing the radon mitigation, but you're providing details on how that needs to be done. If you are running that system or that vent pipe through the structure, then the pathway needs to be shown. And then also it needs to comply with the minimum requirements for materials and sizing. But that does need to be shown on the plan set as part of that. Now, that's not going to apply to every jurisdiction. So you will, as a manufacturer, have to look at that local's requirements and see if they require this. The one that we do know of is going to be Summit County, and I believe the neighboring counties may apply that to IBC structures as well. Okay. And then footnote H, this is specific to the accessory dwelling units. So if at a minimum, we require the fire separation to comply with section R302. But if the locals do not require the separation between the dwelling and the accessory dwelling, then you can be exempt from that requirement. But we do need to know what the exemption is being used for that specific location. So that may be a site-specific structure, but if you submit a design that had both fire separation and no fire separation, and this was a product that was built specifically for that location that did not require it, then you would already have the plan approved with the design that had no fire separation there, so it should be fine. But if it goes to any other jurisdiction that required it, you would also have that design approved under that submittal as well. Okay. And then next slide, I can't remember if there's I don't think there's anything else on that one. Do you want to do questions now, Sam, or do you want to go finish this up?
We've got 30 minutes left, Donnie. So,
okay. So let me just run through this real quick, then we'll use the rest for questions that they have and we have. Okay.
Yeah.
So just real quick, this is this data that was pulled. What I did is I pulled the SEAC document, the Structural Engineers Association of Colorado. They have a bunch of coordinates that are on their document that have snow loads that are specific to those coordinates. And so what it is, I compared them to the ASE 7-16 using the Hadger tool. And a majority of the coordinates matched what was in the document. There was a couple that were off, but it was only off by 5 PSF. So chances are the coordinate was off by 50 feet or so. And if it was that 50 feet was higher in elevation, it changed the snow load. So based on that data and the regions that we created, 62%, that top left table there, 62% of the points fit within region 1, 26% fit in region 2, 6 and 3, 4 and 4, and then 2% in region 5. And then also, when you look at the data points based on coverage by county, 88% of the data fit within region 1, which meant that 88% of the counties in Colorado have a region 1 in it. 31% had a region 2, 14% had a region 3, 9, 4, and 5, 5. So basically, what I would like you to do is try to imagine the regions in a layered cake type of, visual. So let's just say that region 1 is at the bottom of that bottom of that layered cake, right? So if you looked at Colorado as a whole, and you looked at it by county, every county that is in region 1 would be a certain, let's just say that light blue color, right? And then if you go to region 2, you again look at the Colorado as a whole, but only the region 2 counties in Colorado would show up on that layer. And then you just keep going up to region 5. And again, region 5 is a kind of like the catch-all. So it's anything that exceeds regions 1 through 4, or can be site-specific. So I guess if you just do it, if you look at it based on it exceeds regions 1 through 4, you'd only have just a couple counties that show up on that last layer there of the cake, right? But realistically, all of Colorado can be site-specific region 5. But to make it simple, if you built it to regions 1 through 4, you should still be able to build for a majority of Colorado if you did region 1, right? And then when we compare it to the ASE 7-22, which is going to be in the 2024 building codes, you'll see that there's still some consistency there on the amount of data that's in region 1 through 5 when you compare it to the SEAC document. But you'll see that the data does show that it's a little more evenly split out. But the reason why we have the ASE Ultimate here, and the next slides will be by, I think it's ASL, the allowable structural loads. The Ultimate is going to be your commercial. So in the ASE 7-22, they do have it split into 2 different design criteria or snow loads. And so the Ultimate is going to be for your commercial, and the ASL is going to be for your residential. The ASE 22 already breaks it down for you. It's I believe it's like a 0.7 value of the Ultimate. But anything that's commercial right now, 34% of the data fits within region 1 on that bottom left table there, 26 in region 2, 16, 4, or 3, 4 and 4, and then 20% in region 5. And the reason for that is because the ASE 7-22 significantly increases the snow loads from the ASE 7-16 into the 22 version of that. It also increases wind loads, but it's not by much. Okay, you want to go to the next slide? So same idea. Again, the top two tables there are the same that was on the previous slide, but this is a comparison to the residential sections of the ASE 7-22. So again, 56 is in region 1, 21 in region 2, 8 and 3, 7 and 4, and then 8 and 5. And then based on county, 89% of the counties have a region 1 based on our table. Using the ASE 22, 31 and 2, 16 and 3, 9% and 4, and then 16 and 5. All right, next slide. All right, so this table, again, the top two tables are based on the commercial. So this is for the ASC 22 Ultimate. And then the bottom two tables are comparisons to historical data based on plan reviews that were submitted. So when we look at the data, 63% of plans that were submitted, this is all plans that were submitted, were in region 1, 21 were in region 2, 7 in region 3, 5 and 4, and then 5 in region 5. And then based on just commercial plan reviews that were submitted in the last 2 years, 77% of those plans fit in region 1, 11% in region 2, 4 and 3, 1 and 4, and then only 8% in region 5. So basically, what this is showing that a majority of the construction that has happened in the past few years or past couple of years, a majority of the construction fits within region 1, but you can see that it somewhat aligns with the data that was collected. A majority of the data that was collected shows that majority of those points are in region 1, which correlates with the amount of plans that were approved commercial wise are in region 1 as well. And it kind of just, you'll just see when you compare it, the two tables, that the way the table's laid out, it aligns with the production models that are coming through to Colorado from the industry. All right. You want to go to the next one? I think this is the residential comparison. So again, plan reviews on the bottom left there, as a whole, 63 in region 1, 21, 2. Just again, this counts for both commercial and residential, but the bottom right table, you'll see that a majority of the construction that is coming through the industry, that still a majority fits in region 1, but also you'll see that there's also a high region 2, and then 9% in 3, 10% in 4, and then only 2% are region 5. So I guess just for clarification, this is just on the past 2 years of production. You know, maybe the industry demand is different. Maybe there's going to be a lot more region 5s in the future. It's hard to say. But based on the historical data, at least in the past 2 years, the majority of the construction is going to be in regions 1 and 2, based on the format of the table that we currently have. Okay. This is just for snow loads, though. Just want to clarify that as well. All right. Next. All right. Now we can get into the questions here. You want to go through questions? I'll try to answer them.
Yeah, we also, I just want to mention, I know we've only got 20, and thank you, Donnie. We've only got 25 minutes. We've got some other questions that we wanted to ask you, folks that are on here. But I think that we will spend our time on your questions, and then we will send these questions out with the email to the slide deck, if that makes sense to everybody. Donnie, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that'd be best.
All righty. So I've been trying to make some responses in the chat. Tracy, you had your hand up though. Do you want to just make your comments real quick or questions?
Nope, I'm good. I'm processing, Sam, because this is a lot for us tiny house folks. I guess I do have one question on the wildfire mitigation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we discuss there being that tiny houses would be exempt because the square footage was less than, was it 300 or 400 square feet? I don't remember. Is that like not correct in my memory, Donnie and Sam?
We'll have to go back and look at that code, but I don't think there was an exemption on size there.
Yeah, no, only the Colorado model solar and electric ready, it has a size requirement, which is the 600.
Solar.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right, you guys. Okay, I'll just hush for a moment. I need to process.
All right. Trying to pick out questions based on a common thread here. If you would like to get your question, let's just put it this way. If you would like to get your question answered, raise your hand or shout it out real quick.
Sorry, guys. I was trying to find the button for the hand, but I couldn't find it. So I just
There you
jumped in.
go. All right. The
Yeah.
hand button is under the chat feature, I think. No, it is, I don't know where chat is. Heather, help us out.
Yeah. So, just to make sure that I'm clear, I understand you guys aren't enforcing any additional loading. You're just trying to set up a basic structure to make plan review and approval easier, right? So if so we could develop a package for, say, region 2 for wind, region 1 for snow, and then submit that package, get it approved, and then build a bunch of floor plans off of what's already approved, right? So we're kind of going back to the systems package idea as opposed to model specific everything.
Yeah, Manny, you're right.
Yeah. So basically, and just remember the requirement for the bill is that we must meet or exceed the local design criteria for those categories mentioned in the bill. And we're
Right.
also looking into other things as well, like seismic and I forget what the other thing that was on there. That's not here on the table, but we are adding it on there.
Right. So
if you, let's just say you built a region 1 snow and a region 1 wind, once that plan's been approved, that structure can be built and go anywhere in the state of Colorado where the locals requirements, where that structure meets or exceeds that local's wind and snow load requirement. And you also have to consider the stuff that's on the left side of the right side of the table here as well. But generally speaking, for wind and snow, if there are 30-pound snow and 115-mile-an-hour winds, then this structure is approved for that location because it would exceed their requirements. But let's just say there are 40 and 120, then you would be meeting their minimum requirements. But you wouldn't have to change the design because it already meets their requirements.
Right. So that makes sense. I mean, because it's kind of like HUD in a way. You have these minimum wind zones and you have these minimum roof loads. You can build it to whatever you want as long as it meets whatever the on-site requirements are, right? So like, say if you have a manufacturer that says, I'm never going to build anything higher than a 86 ground snow load and 115 mile an hour. So they can have a package developed that's region 2 for snow, region 1 for wind, and away you go, right?
Yep.
As long as you don't ship to any place that, say, up in the mountains where you have higher wind speeds or anything like that, then you're good. So
yes, yeah.
So I know, kind of switching gears a little bit, understanding that. So I know that the 2024 pulled back amazingly some of the requirements in the IECC for insulation in the roof, right? But still, Climate Zone 7 is going to have more requirements for, say, insulation in the floor than Climate Zone 4 would. There's no option for anything other. So
Yeah.
if I submit a package that, say, region 2 for snow, region 1 for wind, in order for it to get approved, it's going to have Climate Zone 7 thermal.
Yeah, so right now the requirement is Climate Zone 7 across the board. But if you see that footnote C, as I went over in the footnote section, is that if you are building specifically for Climate Zone 4, you do have the ability to design to Climate Zone 4 and meet Climate Zone 4 thermal requirements. But if you look at the energy codes, Climate Zone 5 through 8, majority of the construction or typical construction of modular have the same insulation requirements. There's going to be a slight difference between, I think, when you get into 7 and 8 for, I think,
For the floor.
I think it's floor, but also it talks about the mass wall. So like you're doing a crawl space or basement, right? There's slight differences there, but majority of the wall assembly and roof assembly requirements are going to be the same. Now there is a reduction in the 2024 IECC for the ceiling insulation, but there's also an increased insulation in the wall assemblies. And that's going to be the continuous insulation requirement. So there is a trade-off that they did apply prescriptive method, but again, the tables that are in the IECC, or if you are doing the prescriptive methods of compliance for the thermal envelope, they do have, I believe there's 4 methods of compliance in the IECC. One's not applicable to Colorado because we don't have any tropical, but there's the performance, the prescriptive, and then the ERI method. But you also have to make sure that you do have to comply with one of those 3 and the additional energy efficiency package that's part of the IECC. And then so going from the 21 to the 24, there is an increased amount of points that are needed to comply with the additional energy package. So I do believe that they have more detailed items that you can provide to get those points. But yes, there is a reduction in the ceiling, but there's also an increase in that envelope in the wall assemblies. Okay.
Right. Okay, the last thing I have is so the current Colorado rules states that if you get above 65 roof snow load, you can't use the duration factor. Is that going to continue? Do you know?
Say it again.
So once you get past 65 pounds on the roof, Colorado rules say that you can't have your duration factor, which is allowed by the other standards for almost everywhere else, I want to say. And do you know with the new adoption, is that going to continue?
Yeah, so that's our footnote A. So you'll see right there on the regions 2 through 5. That footnote's just a continuation of that requirement that's in our existing table.
Okay.
Anything else, Manny?
Yeah, just I didn't hear what was the story with the seismic. Are we saying that it's all design category C, or are you
It's going to be what's in the existing table, and I forget which one or what the seismic category is, but it's already in the rules now. We're just going to apply that here.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think it was B though as our minimum for seismic.
Okay.
We do have some A's in Colorado, but they're kind of scarce. And I guess when you look at the coverage in Colorado, but majority is going to be B. Okay. Any other questions, Manny?
No, I'm good. I think Cameron had a good one.
Cameron, you want to come online and ask your question?
Sure. I think as it progressed, it seemed like maybe it got addressed, but my first question was with the new ASCE 722, if you do go to 2024, if the loads that are going to be shown for snow in Colorado are going to be ASD loads that already have the new 0.7 ASD load combo factor on them, or if we're going to be able to apply those 0.7 factors onto these 40, 60, 80, and 100-pound loads when we go to do designs.
Yeah, so that's one thing I'm trying to get clarified, because the ASD that's in the ASCE 7-22 is the value is still ground snow load. So I'm not sure if you can still do additional reduction after that. So I'm going to talk with Shums Coda. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a meeting last week where they discussed the wind and snow load requirements under the ASCE 22. So I'll have to catch up with them and see if we got that clarified.
Okay, thank you. The other one I had was, I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding how it's going to work in this proposal. So the locals wouldn't be forced to observe any of this necessarily, right? They're just going to be able to continue to observe whatever they choose to observe, and we just pick one of these zones that covers what they've chosen to observe.
So they'll still verify that the structure meets their minimum design criteria, right? But they're not going to be doing a full review of that plan, just like they currently can't do the full review of that plan, right? These plans will be reviewed and approved through the Division of Housing, either through internal staff or by the third-party agency that's been authorized to approve on our behalf. But what we'll be doing is we're going to be reviewing to make sure that it meets the design criteria that you submitted to us that the structure needs to meet. And then once it gets to that specific jurisdiction, the manufacturer will have to verify that these zones do apply to that specific location. It must meet or exceed their requirements, but the locals do have the ability to make sure that the design criteria for the structure meets their requirements. So let's just say, for instance, you submitted a region 1 across the board for wind and snow, and they are a 45-pound roof, and let's just say it's 115, right? You might have met their wind load requirements, but you didn't meet their snow load requirements. That structure is not allowed to be there, not just for their design criteria requirements, but also for ours, because our requirement is that you meet or exceed their requirement. So they're still going to be looking at it to a certain extent, but they're not going to be doing full reviews of it. They're just going to make sure that the design criteria that was submitted for that approval meets their design criteria.
Gotcha. I guess the last thing I have, and it's more of a suggestion maybe than a question, and I don't know how much power you guys have to do something like this, but one of the things personally that gives me headache when we do projects in Colorado is trying to get sometimes non-technical people who are often the ones gathering the design criteria for us to report back to do so correctly. I don't know if there's any way that we can have locals select one of these criteria and report it back to some central location so we can pull it easily. Oftentimes we get a locality that, they choose to observe ground snow load. Another might choose to observe roof live load. And when a non-technical person is reporting it back to the engineers, they have no idea which one they're telling you. They're just giving you a number. It's sometimes really hard to hunt the criteria down from the locals. I don't know if there's any path to getting them all to tell you guys what they're observing, so we could easily pull that out of somewhere. Maybe that
Yeah,
already
so
know about
that's
it.
yeah, that's going to be a little difficult. We do have some data that's been collected through a survey that Streams Coda did, but that data can change, right? Because there's a lot of locals that there's new laws that have passed that a lot of locals may be adopting new codes. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at adopting in 2024, because if the locals are going from 18 straight to 24, or even if they went to the 27 when the 27 was published, the ASC 22 starts in 24, right? But if they adopted the 21 and didn't go to the 24, this table still accounts for that as well, right? And the problem is, I guess, with gathering the information that you're asking for is getting every jurisdiction to participate, and then also getting, I guess, that information updated whenever they update their codes, right? And so that's going to be hard to track and maintain. So as of right now, it's just going to be the responsibility of the designer to review the locals' data to ensure that this design meets their requirement. If you submit a regional design, I guess, plan, right? You can still do a site specific. So if you're not sure where the structure is going, you don't have to submit one of these regional designs. Just submit a design that's specific to the site that is going, and the plan review process will be the same as what's happening today, right? We'll still go through that whole process of looking at the locals design criteria on their website, ensuring the design that you submitted meets one of these categories or the region 5 for wind and snow, and then it'll be approved for that specific site. But if you wanted to do a mass production of a specific unit, you can submit that design and get approved. But before that structure goes to a specific location, you want to make sure that it does meet the requirements. So you'll still have to do some research on that aspect. I just don't know if we're going to be able to collect everybody's information and have it in one central location.
Okay.
It's a dream.
Yeah,
It is. It would be nice.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it
the
would be.
answer. Thank you.
Hey,
So-
Donnie, I got a quick question on the third party inspectors again. I know, in terms of if you have a new set of plans that are certified and approved by a third party that's approved by you guys sent that memo out like last spring, asking local jurisdictions to accept the third party certifications. We've been kind of unsuccessful getting verification from the local jurisdictions that they will accept that. Are you guys going to send something kind of like, basically like forcing them to accept it? Is it going to become something where that just becomes the rules that they've got to accept these third party approved plans?
No, we're not going to force them. I wouldn't say it that way. What we will do is when that when the implementation of the new rules come into effect, there will be another memo that's sent out notifying the locals that there will be a chance that a third party has the ability to approve a plan on our behalf, and that these can be accepted without the state of Colorado approval on it. And so what we're doing is we're looking into what that approval is going to look like, right? Because we want to be able to distinguish what an approved third party stamp, our final approval stamp is going to look like versus your typical third party approved stamp, right? We don't want to confuse locals and they start just accepting anything that's third party approved, because not every third party is going to be approved to do that. They still have to go through a review process that we're developing so that they can get approved to do the final approval for us. Okay.
And,
So go ahead, Sam.
and that ties back with that point I made early in the slide deck that the third-party agencies will be required to be registered with the state of Colorado, registered certified with the state of Colorado, just like the manufacturers are. So that will be explained in that memo going out to the locals too, once these rules take effect June 30th or July 1st.
Got it. So so that memo probably won't go out until like June, July.
Probably June. We want to get it addressed as soon as possible because
Yep.
once the rules are effective, we want to
Yeah.
make sure that we don't get out there too late.
And are you guys still pretty backlogged on that stuff like you were?
Yeah, we are a little backlogged right now on direct plan reviews and not third party and third party reviews. We are a little behind, but we do have a new plan reviewer hired, so that should be good.
Thanks.
Mike has his hand up.
Yeah, hey Don, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure under the other design criteria minimums, the wildfire, that footnote D was saying that you could have an approval without class 1 requirements.
Yeah, as long as that local does not have a I guess a classification of 1 or 2. So what we're planning on doing is adopting the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code map, right? And so you would be able to use that as reference. And so if that specific location that the building is going to does not have a risk category, then you can design it to go to that location without it, right? Also you would have to check the local amendments because they might have an approved amendment that allows for 0 classification, but doesn't look like, yeah.
Because how do you express that on the approval then, since it's not site
well,
specific?
let's just say that you're only designing for a 0 classification, then you would just have to say that you have to specify that structure is only going to locations that have a 0 classification, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just going to be a little difficult. Have you looked at the current map?
Yes, I have, and I started to check with local authorities on what they have or don't have.
Yeah, a lot of locals have not adopted a WUI yet,
Mhm.
so that might be a little difficult. But when this rule comes into effect, we're adopting the map. So um, even if the locals have not updated their ordinances, the map would be accurate for what needs to be enforced based on the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Board.
Yep. Donnie, I want to cut you off. I want to go through those questions real quick and then do that schedule slide where I show everybody what our timeline is, okay?
Okay.
So please, if you have questions, email us or get the question to us and we will try to factor that into the next round of this. But I just want to go through again. Let me find the right slide. Is based on snow loads, how does this affect your program? Wind shear, how does this affect your program? And where would you draw the lines? Climate zones and thermal envelope requirements. There were several questions in there about that. Please let us know impacts to you. A biggie is that change to 2024 code set. Are there cost implications and how are they minimum? At some point, every state's going to go to the 24 code set or better. I'm just not sure how much longer. We're starting to see that in some of the other, not only jurisdictions in Colorado, but other discussions around. There was a Modular Building Institute government officials website the other day, and there's several states that are looking at the 24 code set, not just Colorado. Fire sprinkler systems, 13D, thermal bridging, questions about that, and roofing materials. What do you normally use, and what's going to be? Do any of you currently default to Class A roof assemblies? More on roofing, and then any elements or information you'd like to see added to the table. We just discussed seismic. We'll probably get that in there. And then that was it for that. My last slide with 30 seconds left is what our timeline is. Our effective date is June 30th of 26. March 11th, that will be the comprehensive draft of the proposed rules. March 31st is the filing notice with the Secretary of State to have those rules out and set a public hearing date, which will be May 5th for the public rulemaking hearing. We'll adopt those after a legal review has been completed. We'll publish those final rules June 10th and with a June 30th effective date. Now, with respect to the design criteria, your responses are needed ASAP. We're trying to freeze and finalize that table data by the end of the month. And so, and that helps us meet these other dates. We will have more interested party meetings. This won't be the only manufacturer meeting. We plan to have one on the entire changes in Senate Bill 25002 by interested party, very similar to what we've done in the past with our updates to administrative rules. And with that said, thank you very much for participating today. And with that, I will stop the recording.